Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and today I'm going to be starting off by discussing the ongoing tussle over the Northern Ireland Protocol, and there are several major approaches to discuss here. So I'm going to be splitting it across several videos this week, and in this one I'm going to discuss the EU Commission's proposals to smooth over some of the practical difficulties, the diplomatic pitfalls the government face in refusing. And then tomorrow I want to discuss the reports that the government are basically going to turn them down anyway and maybe deliberately trying to start a trade war with the EU. And then on Wednesday, we'll be discussing how Boris Johnson may be trying to use this to his advantage for a general election. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So it's going to be big Northern Ireland Protocol week this week. There are reports of the EU Commission publishing this Wednesday proposals for practical aspects of the protocol, with a view to easing unnecessary difficulties. You may have seen in the news, they've decided that sausages aren't that big a deal after all. Now, if I take the politics out of this just for a brief moment, now from the point of view of those who just want to make it work, they just want to get Brexit done, they just want it dealt with, there are two conflicting issues with trade with Northern Ireland. On the one hand, Northern Ireland is part of the UK, and so there shouldn't be trade barriers on trade purely between Britain and Northern Ireland, because that's between one part of the UK and another part of the UK. On the other hand, the Good Friday Agreement made the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland almost invisible, and the only way to maintain this is for all parts of Ireland to share a customs area at least. Now, with Brexit, there were only ever two solutions. The EU's proposal was for Northern Ireland to remain aligned with the EU, and then Britain can do its own thing. This meant a customs border and the associated trade barriers between Britain and Northern Ireland. Well, this was unacceptable to Theresa May, who was the former Prime Minister, who opted for the second option of keeping the whole of the UK aligned with the EU's single market until someone came up with a cunning plan to have separation without separation. Naturally, despite talk of technological solutions, Tory Brexiteers knew that this would never happen, or at least not happen in the foreseeable future, and so they got rid of her. Boris Johnson took over and immediately adopted the EU's original plan and sold it as a victory. But we have since learned that he only got the support of the hardline Brexiteers in his party for this by promising to tear up the protocol once we'd left the EU. So in many ways, however you treat goods passing from Britain to Northern Ireland, there is some trade-off when it comes to control of a market. This is because even if you say, goods are bound for Northern Ireland and will not pass into the Republic of Ireland and therefore the single market, well, how can you prove that? The way we were supposed to prove it is we were supposed to be legislating to force companies producing food in Britain, if they were going to be selling it in Northern Ireland, to make sure there was basically a stamp on it that says for sale in Northern Ireland only. We haven't done that yet. We've reneged on that promise. We should be sharing information with the EU, transfer of goods, because we're saying to the EU, look, this stuff doesn't pose a threat to your single market, to which the EU are going, great, can we see the data? No, you can't see the data. How do we know it's not a threat then? So you create this doubt, and we're deliberately creating this doubt. There were things that we agreed with the EU we would do to satisfy them that there actually wasn't this risk, and we're not doing it. So where there is doubt, the legal treaty that Boris Johnson negotiated and signed states that Britain will take the hit in all such cases. Essentially, this means that goods passing from Britain to Northern Ireland needs to be treated in the same way as goods passing from Britain to an EU country directly. But, the EU have no particular interest in just adopting such an inflexible approach, and they've been willing to discuss modifications to the practical implementations of the protocol in order to ease trade barriers where it will not adversely weaken the integrity of the single market, which, as I say, would be a lot easier if we just stuck to our side of the bargain. Frankly, they've even agreed to things that actually you could argue would have an impact on the single market, but where the risk currently is judged to be low. It also has to be said that it is the UK government which negotiated itself into a position of weakness that has the most to gain from coming to agreement and yet hasn't actually presented any proposals. Johnson and Frost keep saying that it's the EU that have to come up with proposals. Oh, and good proposals. We don't want any of your usual rubbish. And it's just as well they aren't as stubborn as me, because you know what? If it was me, if I were them, I'd be saying, you want changes, you come up with the changes. And if we don't like them, we'll just chuck them in the bin and you can come up with another one until you come up with something sensible. How about that then? But the EU have been working on compromises, and the latest set are out this week, on Wednesday in fact. They are reported to include measures on the movement of medicines and agri-food, which are where the trade barriers are most acute. The proposals are also set to include a more prominent role for Stormont. And it's also reported that the measures will be so comprehensive that the UK government will find it hard to refuse. That being the case, be a good acid test for the government's intentions, because even if the proposals are not the finished product, and nobody would expect them to be, if Boris Johnson is serious about getting Brexit done, then he would surely welcome anything that eases trade concerns. Because the bottom line is this: will the EU's proposals improve trade between Britain and Northern Ireland? If reports are accurate, then the answer will be a clear yes. If the government attack the proposals, which they have done, and I'm just going to précis this now by saying even before they're published, the government have basically said no, then it's clear that they're not at all interested in making the protocol work. And there is good reason to believe the latter. I've already mentioned that Johnson promised many of his MPs that he would drop the withdrawal agreement as soon as we left the EU. The reason they're behaving themselves right now is because they believe he is on course to do this. David Frost said that he would reject any measures that are tinkering around the edges, which is an ambiguous term that could easily be used to describe any measures the EU come up with. Remember, the UK government have not come up with a single proposal in all this time for practical modifications that don't just involve rubbing out some lines from the agreement. That's the only proposals the UK government's come up with so far. It's like, this bit of the treaty that is now international law, yeah, we'd just like you to ignore that if you don't mind. But that's not really a proposal. Not one proposal that is consistent with the wording of the treaty has ever been issued by Johnson or Frost. Now, it could be that they are just too lazy, and if the EU are offering, why not let them do the legwork? But it's much more likely that they are absolutely determined to scrub out the protocol altogether. The question is, what do they think will replace it? The reason this was needed in the first place is because without Northern Ireland sharing a customs area with the Republic of Ireland, then the international trading rules would demand a customs border inside Ireland. You have to have a customs border at the intersection of two different customs areas. Now that, of course, is unthinkable. But Boris Johnson doesn't care about that. As far as he's concerned, if he's not going to be the one erecting a customs border there, bear in mind that he hasn't erected any customs borders except the one in the Irish Sea. We have no customs border effectively between Britain and France, not in our direction anyway. Or Britain and the Netherlands, Britain and Belgium, and so on. At some point, we will have to have them. We're breaking international trading rules right now by not having them. But Boris Johnson has never been about the long term. If he believes that imposing these customs borders would end his political career, then he will not do so. In fact, he'll put it off forever. And with that mindset, he'll take the view, even if people are telling him, Prime Minister, at some point we're going to have to do it, that we is the country. He'll just think, well, whoever comes after me can deal with that mess. I'm in this for as long as I can be. So if he won't put checks on EU goods entering the UK into Britain, he's certainly not going to do the same in Ireland. As far as his political calculation goes, I am quite certain he sees no problem at all with not having a customs border with any part of Ireland. So it might be that the only thing stopping Johnson reneging on the protocol is diplomatic consequences. Bear in mind, he hasn't suspended the protocol yet. Yes, people believe that he will. I am fairly satisfied that enough people in the know believe that he will, that I believe that he will. But until he does, there must be something holding him back. That something may just be timing. I'm going to explore that later this week as well. Now, I'm going to discuss action from the EU, as I say, in the next video. But what about the United States? So the US National Security Advisor said just last week that he had warned the British government that suspending the protocol would be a serious risk to stability and of serious concern to the United States. That's quite strong language. To use that publicly is quite strong language. The language used behind closed door will have been much more robust. Well, Boris Johnson doesn't exactly have a good relationship with the current American administration, let's be honest. It's quite clear that he is banking on the Republicans taking back control over the next few years. So how concerned will the United States really be? See, I've no doubt that the actual conversations, like I've already said, will be very robust compared with what we hear via the press. The UK will no doubt want to know exactly what the US will do about it. If Biden's plan is to simply express his outrage but not actually do anything, Johnson won't care. He's getting nothing from Biden anyway, so the president's toothless displeasure is no longer a problem for him. On the other extreme, the US could impose economic sanctions on the UK in solidarity with the EU. It's one thing for the UK to get into a trade war with the EU, which is maddening enough for me. Don't think they can really afford to get it involved with the US as well. You know, and this could help Biden flex his international muscles, which might play well back home, as well as help build bridges in the EU that he set fire to last month. But I don't know whether the United States would do that. What I do believe is that Johnson will want to know exactly what the US will do, because that has to feature in his political calculation. He might think he can win a trade war with the EU. So I know, I'll talk about that tomorrow. But against the EU and the US combined, I do not think he'd want to get that calculation wrong. But the next hurdle is that proposal, this Wednesday. We know that Johnson won't actually welcome it because David Frost, his unelected Brexit minister, has already dismissed it before even publication. I'll go over the reasons later this week. In fact, he's going to issue a speech tomorrow in Portugal, the day before the publication, to basically argue against it. So that leaves us with a step closer to a full-blown trade war, which is my next video, because now people are regarding this as a certainty. But until then, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.